Welcome to the Wolverine Digest podcast, the best spot for objective, authentic coverage of Michigan athletics. If you want open dialogue, honest opinions, and in-depth coverage of the maize and blue, this is the podcast for you. And now, here's your host, Brandon Brown, joined as always by Chris Breiler.
Well. It is
Friday. You ain't got no job, and you ain't got shit to do.
Well, we got a little bit to do.
Some stuff.
We got a little bit to do.
Before we get into any of that, can we talk about how good I look right now in this lighting? I mean,
all right, let me take the music down for this. Everybody, Chris is very excited that he has better lighting than me tonight, and it's been an ongoing thing since we started.
Look at the complexion. Look at the complexion here. I look like I just came from the beach.
It's pretty good. Looking like Daryl Sheets over there, dude. It's beautiful.
Like I'm about to bid on a storage locker.
Oh, man. All right. Well, glad a few of you are hanging in there with us. It is a later go by quite a bit. We drove ourselves to Madison. We're just outside of Madison. We got about 20 minutes into campus area tomorrow before we get to Camp Randall, and we're really, both of us, man, really looking forward to that. I asked the question on Twitter. Chris, you can jump in here. I think I know the answer, but I just asked, is Camp Randall a bucket list type of stadium for people? And it seems pretty resounding that it is. I mean, it's definitely in the discussion for a lot of people.
No, yeah, it's jump around, right? I think that's what everybody wants to see, and that for me is like, I told you, like no matter what happens tomorrow, I cannot miss when that goes down. So yeah, it's a special place. I think it's one of the older. Was it one of the oldest? I know it's one of the oldest stadiums, but really it might be the oldest stadium in the Big Ten. It's been around for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that celebration is certainly one of the most special ones that you'll see in college football, and I'm excited to see it. Hopefully, it lives up to the expectation.
Yeah.
I just want to start by saying go blue.
Let's say it. Tomorrow, Michigan takes on Wisconsin, 11 o'clock local time. That's kind of weird to even say. Noon, obviously, back for people in Michigan. I'm worried about this one. I am. Yeah. I think a lot of people are. I think the reasons are pretty obvious, and we're going to find out in a hurry exactly what Michigan is made of. It's going to be – I don't know what it's going to be. I think that's where the big discussion is it's like we know what Michigan would like to do. They'd like to run the ball a whole bunch because that's what they did for 4 weeks. But Wisconsin's not having that. They've given up 68 yards through 3 games. You, myself, both interns, Josh and Jacob, all picked Michigan to lose a close game. All of us, I think, within 7 or 10 points. I guess we'll just start right there. Why are all of us thinking it's going to be a close loss? Even, two guys like us who clearly hate Michigan. We hear it all the time anyway, right?
Yeah.
And 2 kids who are writing for the
don't lump me into your Twitter mess there. Don't pull me into that.
And then 2 kids who are writing for the Daily and helping out with the website and currently going to the University of Michigan. Think it's going to be a close loss, and I think a lot of it is Jim Harbaugh's track record. A lot of it is what we saw last week against Rutgers. I don't know. I mean, and I said this last year too. I said I'm not picking them until they show me that there's something different there. And so far this year, they're 4-0. They're number 14. They're ranked much higher than Wisconsin. Wisconsin's not ranked in the game, but Michigan
didn't see that coming.
Michigan is a 2-point dog. I don't know. Floor is yours, man. Tell us all why we picked what we picked.
Well, I know I picked it because that's what I picked in the preseason. I mean, I've had this one as a loss for Michigan long before the season even began for, a lot of the reasons that we talked about leading up to it. It's a long time since Michigan's won up there. It's a really tough environment. Cade McNamara has never played in a road environment, much less anything like what he's going to see in Camp Randall. So I just think, given all of those things, and then you put on top of that sort of what the makeup of the Michigan football team is, what their identity is, smash mouth, they want to run the football, and that's all fine and good when it's working. It's when it stops working against a team like Rutgers that you start to get concerned a little bit when you're going up against the number 1 rushing defense in the country tomorrow, and that's what they're going to see. And so the bottom line is they're going to have to throw the ball, and I think the fact that it's pretty apparent to everybody at this point that they're going to have to throw the ball, I think that leads a lot of people to feel skeptical because you still haven't seen it. We're now entering week 5 and we don't know if Michigan can throw the ball. And so I think a lot of people are still pretty skeptical.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. I want to put this point up there because this is something I feel like's getting thrown around quite a bit. Wisconsin isn't that good, though.
Based on what?
Michigan's better than what they portrayed last week. I think Wisconsin is better than what they showed last week for sure. I mean, the Penn State game, that's a close loss. I think what was it, 16-10 in Camp Randall. So that's a home loss against the Penn State team that's not like a world beater, but they're undefeated. They're number 4 in the country. I mean, they're obviously sitting in a great spot. Yeah. Last week, Wisconsin had the lead against Notre Dame in the fourth quarter. That score is as lopsided as I've ever seen in one quarter of play.
Yeah.
Wisconsin took the lead 13-10. The very next kickoff, Notre Dame runs it back for a touchdown, so it's 17-13, and then Graham Mertz proceeds to throw 3 interceptions, 2 that went back for touchdowns, 1 that wasn't his fault at all, 1 that was kind of a desperation late outside throw, not a good throw at all, but at that point in the game, he's just forcing it. I mean, look, this is still Wisconsin at home with a good offensive line, more talented players than Rutgers, and the number 1 rush defense in the country. They've played Notre Dame and Penn State, and they've given up 68 yards total on the ground. It's not like they were doing that against Delaware and Youngstown State and Western Michigan and Northern Illinois. They've played 2 of the top 10 teams in the country right now and still haven't given up 70 yards on the ground. That's crazy. And I think when you start to talk about the things that Michigan's going to see in Camp Randall tomorrow for the first time, specifically Cade McNamara for the first time, it just feels like a bad matchup. It just feels like a bad matchup, and like Michigan's got a lot to overcome to get a win.
I feel like the phrase "recipe for disaster" gets overused. I do feel like this Michigan team versus this Wisconsin team is a recipe for disaster. Look at what Michigan's good at. Look at what Wisconsin is good at. And when you put the 2 together, it doesn't seem like it's going to spell good things for Michigan, but we'll find out. And we've admitted this, like we talked about it on the drive up. Like, you think about what the feeling is going to be after that game. And I mean, if Michigan goes out and they run the ball, or they come out and they throw the ball all over the field, like I'm happy to eat crow. Like I've spent the last 2-3 weeks, hammering the table that you got to throw the ball more with all of these concerns. And if Michigan goes out and proves they can do it, then I guess it means guys like you and I don't really know what the hell we're talking about. And clearly there's a reason why they're in the position they're in. So we should just kind of, shut it and let them do their work. But I don't see that happening, man. The idea that Michigan's going to go out and run all over the number 1 defense in the country or throw the ball all over the field with Cade McNamara, both of those scenarios just seem highly improbable to me.
Yeah, and Rob, I'm going to keep throwing your comments up here because I think they're good talking points, but you say that Michigan has very good wide receivers. How do you know? Like, is it the 1 reception per game that's telling you that? For some of these guys, is it the
full disclosure? We agree with him. We agree that they have tremendous talent.
I think they're talented. Right. I think they're versatile. I think they're fast. That doesn't necessarily mean overly productive or really, really good or can win in a place like Wisconsin tomorrow. There's a difference, I think, in those two statements. And as far as Wisconsin secondary is concerned, Jim Harbaugh seemed very worried about that. They've got 2 fifth-year and 2 sixth-year guys back there, played a ton of football. They're probably not NFL guys. They're not super, super elite or super athletic, but they're not going to make mistakes. And that D-line and those linebackers are going to put pressure on Cade. They're going to stop the run. That's what they do. I'm with you. I think that if you here's the deal. I would feel much better about where these wide receivers were right now if they had been brought along through the first 4 weeks.
I was just going to say, I think this is a fair question for Rob. If it's a tight game tomorrow in the fourth quarter and Michigan needs to move the ball down the field through the air, who are the 2 go-to targets for Cade McNamara? And that's a question for Rob. Who are they right now?
We've asked this question to each other many times.
I think Cornelius is probably an easy default, right? Because he's got the size and he's got, he's sort of the easy choice. But who do you go to after that? Like, they don't have proven receiver that's available for them on the roster yet, especially in a game that, yeah, you can talk about what Cornelius did against Rutgers last year, but look at what Cade did. We talked about this too. The Cade McNamara that we saw against Rutgers in 2020 versus the Cade McNamara against Rutgers we saw in 2021, they aren't the same quarterback. Like, it just looked completely different. Last year, he was throwing the damn ball all over the field. He engineered a tremendous comeback. This year, he looked completely uncomfortable. And so, yeah, I don't know, man. It's anybody's guess. But yeah, you tell me when it gets tight, who's Cade McNamara going to get the ball to? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's Cornelius, but
it's
maybe AJ Henning, maybe Roman Wilson, maybe Mike Sainristil.
I don't think you can see the answers he's putting up here, but he says Cornelius Johnson, then Eric All, then Mike Sainristil. I just,
Eric, none of these guys have had more than 3 receptions in a single game all year.
Cornelius Johnson has 8 catches on the year. Eric All has 6. Mike Sainristil has 3 through 4 games.
That's you're averaging less than 2 receptions a game, right?
I mean, Mike Sainristil literally has less than a catch a game. How can you possibly say that's a go-to guy? Eric All has 4 catches. I'm sorry, 4 games, 6 catches. It's a catch and a half a game. That's not a go-to guy.
Those aren't right. That's not go-to. Right.
And
exactly.
Look, I like Eric All's skill set. I think he could be really good when he runs up the seam and Cade hits him in stride. It's a beautiful thing. But we've seen that one time approximately. You've got. I'm not trying to rain on all the parades here. I think there is potential there, but I'm concerned about just being able to flip the switch and turn it on when they clearly couldn't last week against Rutgers, who's nowhere near as good as Wisconsin on defense, and it was at home. I have a lot of concerns for what Michigan's going to be able to do with the ball. I think you need to get back to trying to press the edges, get some guys out in space, get some jet sweep action going, fake that jet sweep action. The true RPO stuff where Cade actually can make a read and keep it if the DN crashes down. Like, all these things that seem like they're built in and part of the offense that we didn't see against Rutgers need to be readily available against Wisconsin.
Well, and I think sometimes that's the misconception, is that people think, well, you want this to be an air raid offense, and that's not what it's going to be. No, but there's things that Cade McNamara can do with the ball, with the receivers, that doesn't include, 50-yard bombs down the field. I mean, get it. These guys are specifically seem like they're built. They're the shorter, faster, quicker guys, like the AJ Henning, the Roman Wilson, the Mike Sainristil. Get them the ball in the flat, get them the ball on a quick slant, get them the ball where they have a little bit of space to make something happen. You don't always have to try to get over the top and stretch the field, but you got to find a way to put the ball in their hands. Like, it just, we talked about this a lot. They were clearly struggling against Michigan, and they had weaponry on the sideline, and they just didn't use it. That's right, against Rutgers. And it doesn't make any sense. Like, you've got these things, you recruited it for a reason. Use it, especially when you need it.
Yeah, throw another point up here, and I'm sorry, Christian. I'm not trying to say this to attack you personally, but if I never heard this excuse again, it would be too soon. I mean, to think that Michigan is sitting on some secret playbook. I mean, what's it go back 6 years? I mean, Jim Harbaugh has been the head coach for 7 seasons now. This is his 7th season. Where is this secret playbook? These pages of the playbook that they're just waiting to unleash. I've never seen any semblance of it. I mean, good God, man, when did you need it? You needed it last week. Where was it last week? When Michigan's hanging on by a thread and gets a fumble at the end of the game where Rutgers is going on to maybe try to tie that game in the 4th quarter. I mean, I just don't buy the waiting to open up the whole playbook thing. I mean, there might be a play here and there that you haven't used yet, or you install something new that you just didn't have time to get to so far. I mean, the season's long. You're constantly putting in new things. You're looking at new matchups. How can you exploit the defense you're playing? But as far as having some secret section of the playbook that they're waiting to use when they absolutely need it, there's no way I believe that. There's just no way.
Yeah, we talked about this on the car ride too. Like, I mean, why, there has been so many opportunities where if there was something special in the works that you would have thought you would have seen it, not just this year, but I mean, over the last 6 years. And I think people go to that because it's easier to believe that there's something extra there that they're holding back than to believe that there's a problem and to believe that there's an issue. And I'm not saying that it's one or the other. I'm not saying that there's a problem or an issue or that there isn't. I'm just saying that this idea that there's some special playbook that Jim Harbaugh is saving for November 27th against Ohio State. I just, I don't know. It's weird to me that people believe that.
Yeah, it's something that gets brought up all the time. I mean, Michigan's playing these, these inferior teams winning, and then a good team's coming up and they're like, now we get to see the playbook. And I'm just like, no, like they've been working on stuff all year. You got to try to work those things in and get live game reps and go against a team that has no idea what you're doing. It just doesn't work that way. And like I said, name a game in the last 6 years where Jim Harbaugh has just unleashed new stuff that we've never seen before.
Right, where you saw the playbook opened all the way up, like that was what we talked about on the car ride. That was it.
Yeah.
It was. Have we seen it? Have we seen the playbook open yet? And if we have, then it's pretty concerning based on what we've seen so far. If the playbook hasn't been opened yet, then why in God's name hasn't it been? Because Lord knows Michigan's needed it right over the last 6 years. So I think that right there proves that there's not something special there that's in hiding, waiting to come out. You're kind of seeing it. What is this saying?
Michigan throwing on first down would be a new play. Yeah, well, hey.
Yeah.
That would be a change in approach and
dude, we're like crossing our fingers for like 25 attempts. Like forget completions. Just give me 25 attempts.
Yeah, that would be a change in approach and a philosophy and scheme. Not necessarily. No, I know. I'm pretty sure Zach was being a little bit funny there, but it's true. Yeah. Like Michigan's offense feels pretty predictable and pretty unimaginative a lot, and that needs to change. That needs to change tomorrow in order for Michigan to beat this Wisconsin team.
Or they're going to go out and do it exactly the way they want to do it, and like I said, guys like you and I are going to eat crow, and Michigan is going to be for real. Like that's the thing. Like we talked about how, we thought it was going to be Washington, but it's not Washington. Like everything we thought the Washington game was going to represent is now what the Wisconsin game represent. We're going to find out, is the Michigan rushing attack for real? Can they pass the ball if they need to? And you've heard a lot of this talk about how like it's only a big game if Michigan loses it, and I think we've harped on it enough this season or this week that either way you cut it, this is a big game for Michigan. It's a game that they typically lose with Jim Harbaugh at the helm. If they come out with a W, either way it looks, whether it's close, big, blowout, whatever, this is a win that they need to get, and it would be a huge win for the program.
Yeah, I don't care one bit if Wisconsin's not ranked, if they're 1-2, if like this is a big game. And
can I ask you this question since we're on the topic? It's juicy.
Let's have it. I saw you just got real excited right there.
What's more impactful for Michigan? What would cause more of an impact? A win against Wisconsin or a loss against Wisconsin? What do you think impacts the program more?
I think it's a win, because a loss, I feel like people are just going to be like, well, same old. I mean,
you don't think you don't think a loss on Saturday, the first real legitimate game, that they're going into, opponent that they're going to face, if they drop that, you don't think it sends, like we talked about it, I think a loss tomorrow sends this, you know how this fan base is anyway.
I think it feels like it already feels to me.
So you subscribe to the idea that people are just kind of numb to it and they'll be, well, same old.
I don't know about numb to it. I just feel like it doesn't change any narrative. It's like, okay, 0-12 just became 0-13, losing to a road, losing on the road as an underdog. Like it's just business as usual. I mean, I thought Washington would be better. I thought that game would be really tough. And preseason, I had that circled as a loss. Once the game started, and I watched Washington play, and I watched Michigan play, and I talked to some people who cover Washington day in and day out, my pregame prediction was a Michigan win, and that's what happened. Then they won by a lot more than I thought. But this Wisconsin game, this is all those boxes are checked that Michigan just has not been able to win under Jim Harbaugh. The on the road, the team with a pulse, the underdog. I know they're not ranked, but they Wisconsin feels like a ranked team when they're not ranked.
I'm telling you, that 1-2 record is, I think that's messing with a lot of people's heads and how they view this game and how they view Wisconsin. Wisconsin, they might be 1-2, but this is not a 1-2 football team or football program, if that makes any sense. You're just going to get a better effort out of this team tomorrow than 1-2. And I think a lot of Michigan fans that think this is going to be relatively easy for the Wolverines are going to be in for a rude awakening.
Yeah, well, I'm going to throw this up right now. I was going to kind of wait till the end, but I think we're kind of getting to the point right now, and me and Chris have both talked about it. I just put this story up. You guys can go check it out at wolverinedigest.com with a breakdown from me, from Chris, from both of our interns, Josh and Jacob, and what we all picked. Rob, to answer your question, no, I don't. I have Michigan losing 24-20. I think it's going to be a close game. I think Michigan's going to try to do what they've done for the first 4 weeks, and it's not going to work that well, run the ball. And I think if they have to change suddenly and hope that a switch can be flipped, there isn't a switch to be flipped because there wasn't against Rutgers, and Wisconsin is better than Rutgers. That's how I see it going. On the road for the first time. What was the number? All the teams in the entire country, there's only 7 that haven't played on the road yet, right? And Michigan,
I think it's 5, isn't it? 5 or 7. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's not many.
This first road test at a place like Camp Randall, that defense that takes away everything Michigan wants to do. And again, if Jim Harbaugh and Josh Gaddis and Matt Weiss have the utmost confidence in Cade McNamara and they truly think that he makes everyone around him better, they have done a terrible job of putting that on display. Terrible. And that's on them, and it's on Cade a little bit for missing some throws that he probably could and should make. But overall, the things they have said about him have not come to fruition on the field. And I just think that hoping that it works out and they can get it figured out tomorrow for the first time in that setting is a tall task. That's what I think. Chris, what was your score? All 4 of us were really close. It was like
I've got it 31-24.
Okay.
But I expect it to be more like 31-17, like that type of gap. I expect Michigan to make it a little bit closer at the end. Late. Yeah, but here's the thing, like I don't feel bad for making that prediction because and we talked, we had a long car ride to talk about a lot of stuff on the way up. So
yeah.
But in the preseason, I picked Michigan to go 9-4, and a lot of people that I interacted, 9-3, and a lot of people that I interacted with thought that was like overly optimistic, that there was no way that they were going to get to that. And even with all of that optimism, this was one of the games that I expected Michigan to lose for those. Like, forget about anything that we've seen on the field so far. It was the fact that it was the first time Cade was going to be going into a tough environment. We know what Madison's like, and we know what Michigan's track record in Madison is like. And so with all of those things, the new coaching staff, relatively young players out there, it just didn't seem like it was going to be good things for Michigan. But when you add into that the fact that Michigan's, they flex their muscle the most in the rushing game, and the thing that Wisconsin does the best is completely shut that down. Anybody that looks at tomorrow and says, you know what, this is Michigan's got, like, I don't know what you're basing that on. If you're strictly basing that on the fact that Wisconsin is 1-2, you got to look a little bit deeper at this thing, because the way it sets up, like the recipe of this game, recipe for disaster. If this game fits that bill probably better than anything I can remember in recent history as a Michigan fan.
Yeah, it's I'm really anxious to watch it because I think, we talked about it. A win is huge and a loss is huge. Both outcomes are huge for the narrative of Michigan's season, for the overall narrative of Jim Harbaugh's career as the head coach. I just think both of them. You asked me earlier which one's bigger, and I think because a win would be a change, that would be bigger. But they're both going to be a really big. They're both going to have a really big impact on what's talked about, what the view of this team is, what the view of Jim Harbaugh is, what the view of his future is. Like, all of those things are going to be impacted by the outcome tomorrow, no matter what it is, if it's a win or a loss. But yeah, I mean, this is something I've seen thrown around a lot too. Like, it doesn't seem like either offense is going to be able to do much. Graham Mertz has been a turnover machine. I mean, again, last week he threw 4. 2 of them were incredible plays by the Notre Dame DBs. One of them was a tipped ball that went right to a linebacker, wasn't his fault, and one of them was really bad. It was late, it was outside, it was late, it was inside on a deep out, and the DB just walked right in front of it, and it was like a walk-in touchdown. So
let me ask you this question: if you're Paul Chryst, where are you gonna attack this Michigan defense? What are you gonna do?
That's a good question.
I know what I'm doing. I mean, I'm testing the corners.
I'm going to test the corners, yes, but there hasn't been a glaring weakness on this defense. So it's not like it felt last year where you just send guys deep and throw it up and you got a guy on a one-on-one island. I mean, Mike McDonald has sprinkled zone in enough. You're doing a lot with Dax Hill. Aiden Hutchinson's getting pressure. I mean, like, there's not a glaring weakness, but yes, I'm going to try to test those corners, see if Jamon Green can cover, see if Vincent Gray can cover. And Wisconsin's got a couple of good receivers out there. Danny Davis and Pryor, I can't remember his first name. They've got some speed. They've got some length. They can go up and make a tough catch. They got some moves after the catch. Like, they've got some talent there. And Ches Malusi, the running back who came from Clemson, I was telling you today, Chris, like, Ches Malusi and Sammy Foston were high school teammates. I went down to see Sammy Foston at Naples High School in Florida, and I was like, this Malusi kid is a stud, man. He's a star. Went to Clemson, didn't work out, goes to Wisconsin, and he hasn't been like the typical Wisconsin bell cow running back, but he's got some speed, he's got some wiggle, and he can make some things happen too. So I know they're 1-2. I know they got their doors blown off by Notre Dame late. Like I said, they were. That's crazy that the final score of that game was 41-13 because Wisconsin was up 13-10 in the fourth quarter. That's bananas.
That's insane.
That doesn't happen. 2 pick sixes and a kick return in the same quarter will do that. But it's still Wisconsin. They're still at home. They're still going to run the ball. They're still going to play defense. They're still going to play smart football. That's been the biggest thing is how much they've turned it over. If they can cut that down even a little bit, they're going to be so much better than they've been against Wisconsin, against Notre Dame and Penn State, that Michigan's really going to have to figure some stuff out.
And they've got a lot to play for. Like you talk about how big of a game tomorrow is for Jim Harbaugh and for Michigan. It's a huge game for Wisconsin. If they're going to salvage this season and make anything of it, it starts tomorrow for them. So I think the environment's going to be rocking. I think they are going to be hyped for that game. And like I wrote an article about this the other day, I think they're going to be pissed off about the way things looked against Notre Dame because you're right. It was closer than that score indicates. Things came apart at the end. They can right a lot of wrongs. Both teams, both programs can do a lot this weekend. And so, man, I'm just excited to see it.
Yeah, I mean, the loss to Notre Dame sucked for them. It looked really bad, but like at the end of the day, they can still do everything they want to do pretty much in the Big Ten.
Right.
So like they've got a lot to play for. They're going to come in tomorrow knowing they need that one. It's on their home field, back in front of the Badger faithful. Tough task for Michigan, I think. Let's do over-unders. Let's get into them a little bit. Our over-unders for this game tomorrow, and then we will wrap up with – what are we wrapping up with? Little quarterback controversy?
Do I look like I know? Oh, Jesus. We do have a quarterback controversy, don't we?
We're going to get into that. All right, I'm going to start because we're only doing 5 total. We're a little late here tonight. We shifted these back. No, we shifted back the Wisconsin in-depth preview that we just talked about. So we're going to do these over-unders. I've got 3. Chris has got 2. First off, I said, Chris, don't touch Cade McNamara. I'll take him because I know we're both thinking about it. So I'm going to set the number at Cade McNamara, 24.5 pass attempts. 24.5. Would outdo his average by 12 if he hit that. It was essentially double his average.
I'm hammering the under. And if he gets anywhere near that, I will be satisfied. But I don't even think he gets over 20. So I'll take.
Really? What are they going to do?
I think they're going to just keep hammering away.
New question: more Cade McNamara throws or Brad Robbins punts?
Well, I'll give McNamara that.
You had to kind of think about it. Was like
I did.
That should tell you something.
I did.
Goodness gracious. I think it's – good God, dude. It's got to be over. Can it be over, please? Just freaking try it. Just see if you can get those fast
attempts, not completions. Just
attempts, yes.
Try
to do something new. The run up the middle, the zone, the 2 gaps, the guard, center guard, maybe off tap. That's not going to work against Wisconsin. Get on the edge, get outside, jet sweeps, zones, bubble screens, tunnel screens, deep shots, crossers, seams, slants. Do something, man. Throw the ball a lot, please. Throw it a lot. Because I think if you run it a lot, you're going to lose. So why not try something else and see if maybe it's a little different? I don't know. All right, that's what I'm thinking. I think it's going to be over because I just don't think there's any way all of those football dudes sitting in one room can look at everything that we're looking at and say, we don't need to throw it this week. There's no way they think that. If they do, it is incompetence at the highest level.
So what are you saying? What do they need to do?
Throw the ball. Mix it up. Different plays. Football's not that hard of a sport to figure out. I'm sorry. It's just not.
That plays well as usual. That plays well into my question for you here, Brandon. So we haven't had a Michigan receiver go over 3 receptions in a game so far on the year. I've got a really bad echo in my ear, so if you hear me delaying in my speech, that's why. Do we on Saturday see a Michigan go over 3 receptions in a game? I'm going to set the over/under at 3.5.
Yes. Yes, somebody
Over
will
3.5?
Somebody in that game in a winged helmet will catch at least 4 balls. Gotta happen.
Wow.
If I think the over is going to be 24.5 throws, then somebody better catch 4 of them. For God's sake, catch 4 balls. It's insane that is the high water mark, and it's like, I don't know if they can do it.
I'm going to go under until I see it.
That's absurd.
Yeah, until I see them going under. I think they have to go over to win, but I think they go under.
Man. All right. On the flip side, we know they want to get there. Are they going to get there? Michigan, 100.5 rushing yards. So essentially, are they going to hit the century mark or not?
I do think after not popping off last week, I think they get a couple of big runs out of Blake Corum and Son Haskins this weekend. So I do think they get there. In fact, I think one of the 2, Corum or Haskins, individually goes over 100 yards.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You think one of Michigan's running backs, after what we saw against Rutgers, is going to go over? It's going to run for more than Wisconsin's given up all season by a lot.
I believe they're going to run the ball 75 times. So
75 times? There's no way. That's way too many plays.
No, you get the idea, though.
Man,
you sprinkle in a couple of big poppers there. It's not like he's going to be just hammering away at the defense. Yeah, big poppers. A couple. I don't know.
Big poppers. All right, you got one more. I got one more. Let's get them.
It's my turn.
Yep, it is.
Ooh, this is a good one. I felt like this was a good one. I thought of it when I was in the bathroom. So, do you think a team is going to score early and then it's just going to kind of be that kind of game where a team takes the lead early and that's sort of it? Or do we see some lead changes? So, I've got lead changes set at 1.5.
It's an interesting question.
Yeah. I mean, do we see Wisconsin go up 10-0 early and then Michigan never catches up? Or do we see a battle?
You said 1.5. You're
1.5.
echoing this. You might want to unplug or plug while I'm talking here. Yeah, I'll say over. On that. I think it is going to be a pretty close back and forth. I mean, I can see Michigan going down. I mean, look, I guess technically you have to count if Michigan goes down field goal, Wisconsin goes down touchdown, that's 2 lead changes, right? You start at 0-0. Do you count that first one as a lead change? Or is that not count?
I don't think so. No, I don't think it counts.
But even so, I mean, they trade blows twice, then you're there. 3, 7, 10, there's your 2 lead changes. I think that's very realistic in a game, in what I think the game's going to look like tomorrow. So I'll say over. That's an interesting one, though. Try to think about the game flow and the script and how it all goes. Yeah. That's something we haven't done a lot of. But I like that. I like that question.
My hope is over. My fear is under.
Yeah, Wisconsin gets up 10-0 or something, and that's where it stays the whole day.
And we're trying to claw our way back for the rest of the afternoon.
All right, last one, and this one is on the books for anybody out there who's actually, in the game, in the business of gambling and putting some money up. The over-under is set at 43.5 points total for the game. Based on your prediction, they're going over that, right?
Yeah, right. 31-14? Yeah, over.
No, you got 31-20.
Or 31-24. 31-24, yes.
Yeah, so you're way over. Yes. I have them over by a hair. I have them at 44 total points, 24-20. So I guess by that metric, I will take the over, even though it does sound like a lot of points for these two teams. So I'm I like my score though. I like 24-20. It feels doable. It feels realistic. But then when I see the overall number written as 43.5, I'm like, God, I don't know if these two teams can get there. So I'll stick with the over. That's where I predicted. That's where I'm sitting at. So that's what I'll go with. And yeah, I think it's going to be a grinder. I think it's going to be back and forth. I think Wisconsin has a little more than Michigan on their home field at the end of the day.
All right, are we going into? It could be a grinder unless there's a certain outcome that happens, which I think we're going to go into. I'm going to dip out. I'm going to let you keep talking. I'm going to come back in a minute here to get rid of this echo.
Oh, okay. Well. It's just me and my fellow viewers here settling in for a little fireside chat in the hotel room. No. So Chris and I, we had a long drive up, obviously a little over 6 hours to get to the Madison area. And we're both really excited about the game tomorrow. But as we've talked about, man, we've both gone back and forth on what we think this game is going to look like. I think maybe, I don't know. I think earlier in the week, I was like, yes, I just feel like Wisconsin's going to be too much and they're going to win. And then we got a write-up from John McNamara, who covers Wisconsin for Rivals and has been doing so for a really long time. He gave his prediction, and he picked Wisconsin to lose, which really made me think, like, damn, even someone who's been covering the team for that long and knows exactly what this team is made of and knows exactly what this team wants to do and is capable of, he's even picking them to lose on their home field. And then I've just been consuming and reading and listening and watching, and I think, honestly, what changed it for me, or what gave me the final call, my final answer, if you will, was I put on the Notre Dame and Wisconsin game and watched it. And again, that final score is one of the craziest things I've ever seen for how close that game truly was in the fourth quarter. I was just into the fourth quarter. I think there was like 14 minutes and some change left. Wisconsin was up 13-10. They kick off. Chris Tyree takes it back 98 yards, 17-13. That's a big momentum play. That's a big swing. Notre Dame had a lot going on right there, but it's a 4-point game in the fourth quarter. Lots and lots of time left. It was in Chicago, so it wasn't like, the Notre Dame faithful was going crazy. They both had a lot of fans there. And then the wheels just fell off for Graham Mertz. And he threw, like I said, 2 of the interceptions weren't what I would call bad throws. They were just really, really good plays by the Notre Dame DBs. One of the picks was absolutely horrendous, but it was kind of in like a desperation situation. He threw it deep out. He threw it late. And he threw it inside. DB stepped in front of it, walk-in touchdown. And then the last pick six was hit his receiver right in the hands, and it popped up in the air and got caught by a linebacker. So I remember watching Graham Mertz as a recruit. Michigan wanted him pretty bad. A lot of teams wanted him pretty bad. He goes to Wisconsin. Everybody who was a Michigan fan thought, great, here's this kid. He's going to be so good, so efficient, never turn the ball over, just make timely throws. And he's been like the opposite of that this year. So I think he is going to kind of regress back to the mean a little bit and turn the ball over a little less, make a little bit better decisions, make some bigger plays at home, comfortable there. Again, they need it more than anything. I think Graham Mertz is better than what he's shown, and I think it might show up that way tomorrow. Now, if he comes out and has another outing and turns the ball over a whole bunch, then it's going to be really hard for them to win against a team like Michigan, who can do a lot of things well. So that's what ultimately did it for me, was watching the key plays from that Notre Dame Wisconsin game and looking at it saying, okay, these throws weren't entirely on Graham Mertz just being bad. And the way the momentum shifted in the fourth quarter was something that I don't know if I've ever seen before, like in that big of a shift. Like, to be up 13-10 very early in the fourth quarter and lose 41-13 is crazy. So I think they're better than what they've shown, but again, they lost to 2 good teams. They're back at home. Michigan's still figuring some stuff out. The second half last week, God, that was a whistle. The second half last week against Rutgers just doesn't leave me with a lot of confidence. Chris is back.
I think I'm back.
He's obviously hearing what I'm saying because we're sitting in the same room.
Do I sound okay?
Look, I wanted to bring something up. I wanted to bring something of this up. There seems to be a lot of people who think this is going to be like an "I told you so" situation. Caleb on the Facebook page says if Michigan wins, you two are going to have no idea what to talk about. Dude, I'm not talking smack. I'm looking at this game with two teams that are getting ready to play against each other and giving you exactly what I think is going to happen. Like I picked Michigan to win every game this year by a lot of points.
How exactly? No, I have an honest question. How exactly is anything we've said here talking smack about this team? It's legitimate based on what you've seen, based on track record, based on experience, talking about the game of football. Like, look, I think sometimes people like they get on sites like this and they sometimes get confused, like if it's a fan site or whatever. Like we don't get paid to be like, we're not paid cheerleaders. Like the job is to really just kind of give an honest assessment of what you see, and it's not about hating or talking smack. Like, you guys see the same thing that we see. And the only difference in the way that people talk about it is just whatever type of spin you try to put on it. And for me, it just doesn't feel good to try to filter it in a way that makes it seem rosy. Like, if the offense sucks, the offense sucks. If it needs to be better, it needs to be better. I think this team could be really good. I think Cade McNamara could be really good. I think the offensive passing game could be really good. But until we see it, I'm entirely justified to have doubts about it, because show me one time in the Harbaugh era that you have seen this offense live up to its full capability. Show me one time. Show me one time you've seen that magic playbook come out. Just show me one time. Show me one. Give me one instance. It's not there. So it's not talking smack. It's an honest assessment of what you're seeing. And some people struggle to take that information that way.
Chris Breiler.
Was that a rant?
It was a little mini rant. A little bit of a rant right there. But no, that's the thing. Like, and
6-hour road trip will do that to you.
I'm going to tell you right now, if Michigan loses, I'm not going to come on here and point and say, "Ha, I told you so." Like, that's not. I just think, based on what I've seen, based on everything that's about to play out tomorrow, that's the most likely outcome. And guess what? That's how Vegas sees it right now too. Like, it's close. 2 points is basically a toss-up game. But
right.
An underdog is an underdog. I mean,
I think there's some people in the comments here that are right. Like, we want to be wrong. It's not like we want to see this happen.
I don't want Michigan to lose. I just think that's what's going to happen.
Like, here's the example I use, right? Like, this is my first time covering the football team, covered it a little bit last year, but covering the basketball team and the success that Juwan Howard and that team had, it is so much more enjoyable to do this profession when the team is kicking ass and the team is rocking and things are going well and the fan base is happy and everybody, it's just kumbaya. So we want that to happen, but it's also totally disingenuous for us to come up here and kind of feed you this idea that there is something else in the tank that Michigan's going to bring out on Saturday when we've seen nothing to suggest that so far. So, there's plenty of places where you can get that kind of thing. It's just that we're not really good at that.
Yeah. I just
look at Brandon. He's an asshole. He's not good at blowing smoke. I
just tell you what I think and what I see, and I really try not to get like bias in there. I don't know. I have no problem picking Michigan to win when I think they're really going to win. Like, that's really easy to do. And honestly, just as easy is picking them to lose when I think they're going to lose. Like, I just look at the football and I look at what I've seen and I add up all those things and I come to a conclusion. Like I said, preseason, I had Washington circled as a loss after watching both teams in a week 1 game and then talking to someone who covers Washington on a daily basis and then looking at the way things were playing out. I changed my mind and I picked Michigan to win, and they did by 21, way more than most people thought. So that's just what I do. Dude, if Michigan goes into Camp Randall tomorrow and wins the game, I'm going to come back on Saturday and Monday and talk about what they did to win the game. It's not going to be like, well, the reason they won was because of this, even though I thought it was going to be something else. Like, there's no excuses to make. You just talk about what is going on. That's really all it ever is. And so that's why it's so weird when there's like a loudmouth group of 10. It's all the same.
And I don't know. And I don't know that was what that specific. But I don't remember that individual's name. But we do see
he had an LOL on there. I think he was being like.
We hear that a lot. We hear that a lot, and it's weird. Caleb, it's weird. I don't know, because it's like like when we were in the press box on Saturday and we were watching what was happening against Rutgers, the way that some people came out after the game and talked about how it was a gritty win, or how there was, you heard some of these narratives coming out of like the locker room about how people felt after the game. And I can tell you, like, it just didn't feel that way in the stadium. Like there was a legit concern that you were about to watch this team collapse, so I don't think that, man, we all saw the same thing, but for some odd reason, some people came out of Saturday's game against Rutgers like, yeah, it was gritty and it showed hard and it showed, like, I walked away concerned. Like, does that make me an asshole? I don't know, maybe, but that was what I took from Saturday was, yikes, what's going on with our passing game? Not like, I didn't see it as a feel good story.
On that note, what is going on with the passing game?
Ooh.
We're going to find out tomorrow, and I'm wondering: is it going to be all Cade, or is there going to be a JJ McCarthy sighting? Because I feel like some people automatically. I mean, this is not unique to Michigan. This is not unique to this year. The backup quarterback is always everybody's favorite player. Like, let's see the backup. Let's see what he can do. Like, unless you have Trevor Lawrence or Tua Tagovailoa or Justin Fields or Jalen Hurts, like, everybody wants to see the backup quarterback. It's been like 2 or 3 weeks, and Oklahoma fans are already calling for Spencer Rattler to be benched. He was the Heisman favorite to start the year. Like, this is not unique to Michigan. This is not unique to this year. It's not unique to JJ and Cade. But there are some things that you can say and think about and talk about when it comes to comparing the two. JJ has the more live arm. He's a better athlete when it comes to running the ball and keeping it on zone reads. He is a freshman. He's only been there for 8 months. But we've seen some of the flash and some of the wow that made him a very highly rated recruit, and why you can understand why people are excited. But my big thing is, I don't think you put JJ McCarthy in and suddenly that the approach changes. Like, maybe in those 15 throws, you get some more explosive plays, and instead of going 9 for 15, you go 12 for 15, and one of them's 45 yards instead of the longest one being 16 yards. I mean, like, there are some ways to talk yourself through the idea of JJ playing and why it might be a good idea. Man, I don't know if on the road at Camp Randall's the first time you want to try to roll those dice.
No.
It's a lot to ask of a true freshman. I know JJ's wired a certain way. He's a winner. He's confident. He's won at every level he's been at, but that's a different animal. I'll just ask it to you this way first, Chris, and you can give some discussion however you want. Do we see JJ McCarthy play in the game tomorrow?
I don't think so. I don't think so, because I think Michigan loses the game, but I think that they continue to fight, and I think that Harbaugh keeps fighting it out with Cade McNamara. But I'm not. Listen, I was advocating for JJ McCarthy before the season even started for a lot of the reasons I'm going to name or say right now, which is I didn't think Michigan was a legitimate Big Ten title contender with Cade McNamara. That's not a knock on Cade McNamara. I just didn't see Michigan getting over the Ohio State hump with him as the quarterback, just based on the limited, reps we had seen out of him. And so for my money, it was roll with the young guy, get him the experience now, and it's going to pay dividends in the future. Well, now you're going into Madison, you're heading into week 5. You don't know what kind of quarterback you have in Cade McNamara. And there's still the discussion about, you've got this weapon on the sideline who's like, he's young, he's inexperienced, but he's just got that certain something that can change a football team. And I think you've seen enough out of Cade McNamara to know what he is and what he isn't. And if I'm wrong in that and we haven't, then wow, why the hell not? Why haven't we seen more out of him? So that's kind of where I'm at. Do we see JJ? I don't think we do, because unfortunately, I think Harbaugh is gonna, he's gonna ride or die with Cade. And I think that's what the first 4 weeks basically said about where this football team is going, is that my guy is Cade.
Yeah, I don't think Wisconsin's good enough this year to put this game out of reach. So I think because the game is going to be within reach, either direction, right. Either Michigan's up by a little bit or Wisconsin's up by a little bit, you're not making a change at quarterback when you're in it. That's just really atypical. It doesn't happen. even if the offense isn't working very good, if you're within a possession, like I just don't know why you switch quarterbacks at that point. Even if you think it would be better, even if you think there's a chance it might be more explosive, I just don't think Jim Harbaugh doesn't do anything against the traditional norm of football. And benching your quarterback when you're within striking distance is certainly against the norm of traditional football. And I just don't think he's going to do that. If somehow the game does get really ugly, I just don't think Wisconsin's good enough to do that. I don't think they can score enough points to do that. But if it does, then I think maybe you do see JJ. But I just don't think that's going to happen.
But if that happens, do you go back? I mean, even if it's because it's ugly and the game is completely out of hand and you go to JJ at that point, what justification do you have to go back to Cade after that?
You don't. No. He's done.
So that's it. So even in a blowout loss where JJ doesn't come in and there's no heroics, he doesn't save the day, Michigan still takes a big fat L, and maybe JJ walks away with like a few attempts, in garbage time. If that's the way it goes down, you think that's it for Cade?
I don't know how you can, like, if it gets to a point tomorrow where Wisconsin is up by a lot of points, that's going to mean to me that it's another very subpar day by Cade, and they couldn't get the offense going. He couldn't push the ball down the field. He couldn't move it. What are you doing at that point? Like, I mean, that's your first team with a pulse. I don't even put Rutgers in the pulse category yet. They're better, but they don't have a lot of talent. And I don't know. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here. I don't think Rutgers is going to finish the year with a very good record. I mean, who are they going to beat throughout the whole Big Ten?
It's a tough stretch.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I just, so, man, it's quite a discussion because we really haven't seen a whole lot of JJ, and there's a reason why he wasn't the starter to come.
I mean, if you had a choice in the matter right now, what do you do? What would you do? I mean, the same exact scenario. You're Jim Harbaugh. This is hypothetically speaking, but you're Jim Harbaugh. It's Friday night. You're thinking about JJ McCarthy, Cade McNamara. What's happened so far in this season? Is it even within the realm of possibility to roll the dice on McNamara? Like, can you even do it at this point?
Let me ask you this: have I been Jim Harbaugh all year? Because shit's a lot different right now. If I have been,
yeah. Well, no.
If it's the exact situation we're in right now, I'm going with Cade. You cannot ask JJ to be that guy tomorrow for the first time ever. You can't. Even
though I think JJ would relish it and want it, embrace it. I think he's got that mental makeup. I still don't think it's, we've seen situations. I mean, we saw what happened to Dylan McCaffrey, when he came in and tried to make a play happen and got his head taken off in Camp Randall. So it's just not the type of environment you want to put a young, inexperienced quarterback in. And unfortunately, even the starting quarterback, like I saw somebody say, I think his name was Nathan in the comments, that, Cade was the most experienced quarterback. Well, that may be true, but Cade has never played in a true road environment in college football. He's never been that guy. So he doesn't really have all that much experience in what he's going to face tomorrow. And so, yeah, there's some questions about his experience too, or lack thereof.
He's got 5 starts, but he hasn't played in 5 complete games because he got knocked out of one last year, and he got knocked out, or he didn't play in one this year because he was done at halftime. So he's got like 4 games of playing in home environments or empty stadiums.
Yeah.
That's it.
Camp Randall is different. That is like a living organism around you that's just loud. So I've heard. We'll find out tomorrow.
Definitely warms the cockles of the heart.
It does not, Jim. It does not. None of this warms the cockles of your heart.
I like the mental makeup of JJ. I'd really like to see, like I told you before, the way I'd like to romanticize things is that he comes in, Michigan's dead in the water, he rescues them in Madison, gets the first win. He wasn't even born the last time it happened.
Yeah,
right.
Dude.
And that's the start of the McCarthy era. But I don't know, man.
Let me ask you this quick, because I see Nathan throwing it up there, and it's been talked about a lot. Michigan, the only school in the entire country without a turnover. How much weight do you put on this Cade not having thrown a pick yet?
I haven't thrown an interception. I haven't thrown one all year either, but I haven't played the game. And so the point being, like, if you're not like, I would much rather have a high risk, high reward offense where Cade's forcing the ball down the field, constantly attacking, constantly putting pressure on the secondary, maybe throwing some picks along the way,
right.
but always having a defense on the heels. I would rather have that than this conservative, we don't turn the ball over. But yeah, you don't throw the damn ball either. So that's why. So
I was going to say, like, it's a good stat. I like it. Cade has
awesome.
not made dumb decisions, but, like, how many times has he really had a chance where there's even, like, a defender around? He's only thrown the ball 39 times or whatever it is. I don't even know what the number is at this point. It might be just over 40. But
I like an aggressive point guard. I don't want the facilitator, so everybody else do your thing. I want a guy attacking the rim.
Well, there you have it. We're almost an hour in anyway, Chris. We said we were going to keep it short and sweet. We can't do it. We just have too much to say.
We do.
But I like what we said. We'll be back live from Camp Randall tomorrow, immediately following the game. Win or lose. And we'll be talking about whatever we see, whatever happens. And I'm excited. I'm excited to roll into Madison and get to that stadium and see what it's all about. And we're going to see what happens. And we're going to have plenty to talk about tomorrow and into Monday. Thanks for listening, everybody.